Welcome to the 14th annual Durham Black History Month celebration. My name is Sean Morissette, and I will be your host for this evening. I've been here many years, taking part, keynote addresses, performances with these events, and it's always been a fantastic and amazing experience. We are in the virtual world right now, but we're still having fun. We're still doing it up. We're still representing. We're still supporting our community, and we're still building within our community. It is Black History Month, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to be with us here today. Before we begin, I invite Paralympian and former Madiba Award recipient Anthony Liu to deliver the land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge that we are on land within the jurisdiction of the Williams Treaties and on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wawandat peoples. This acknowledgement reminds us of our responsibilities to our relationships and the ancestral lands on which we learn, share, and live.
Thank you very much, Anthony Liu. I now invite the Durham Black History Month Committee co-chairs Esther Ford and Dane Lawrence to share their opening remarks.
Good evening and welcome.
We are the co-chairs of the organizing committee for tonight's event.
I'm Esther Ford.
And I'm Dane Lawrence.
And we are so pleased to be here tonight as we present Feast of Black Excellence, the virtual edition of the 14th annual Durham Black History Month celebration, presented by Cultural Expressions Art Gallery, Inc. The past 12 months have been unlike anything we have ever experienced. And we know there is still a long road ahead to address the injustices our community faces and the challenges we all face with this pandemic. So tonight, we are making an effort to uplift our collective hearts and minds.
We are thrilled to welcome Sean Morissette as our event host. We invite you to sit back and relax with your favorite refreshments and enjoy our lineup of performers, the presentation of our Madiba Award, and conversations with community leaders who will share their thoughts on community representation and service. If you're watching us on Facebook, please send us your comments.
Now on with the show.
Up next, please join us in welcoming the up-and-coming local artist Rena Faith in the singing of the Canadian and Black national anthems.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let a rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as a rolling sea. dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Thank you so much, Rena Faith. And now we invite Regional Chair and CEO John Henry to bring greetings on behalf of all the communities in Durham Region.
Hi, I'm John Henry, Chair of Durham Region. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the 14th Annual Durham Black History Month celebration. I would first like to thank Cultural Expressions Art Gallery, the Durham Children's Aid Foundation, the City of Pickering, and the Congress of Black Women, Ajax Pickering, for making this event possible today. The theme of this celebration is Feast. It's an acronym that will come to life over the course of this event and showcase the different aspects of the Black experience. It will come to life in various art forms, including music and spoken word, with opportunities for teaching and panel discussions. Last year, we saw the rise of a very important conversation about the ongoing pressures of anti-Black racism in our communities and around the world. The region has begun to identify and address this at both the organizational and the community level. But we know that much more work is needed. We will continue to take actionable steps in 2021 and beyond. Due to COVID-19, we have shifted this event to a digital format, but I'm thankful that we can continue to connect this year and beyond. I hope everyone enjoys this evening and finds value in these unique experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and CEO John Henry. Up next, please welcome storyteller, acoustic guitarist, and vocalist Kunle.
Hello, viewers. My name is Kunle. I'm a Nigerian singer-songwriter currently based in Toronto. Thank you so much to BHM, Black History Month, Durham, for having me, and thanks to Rohan Makleish for doing all the behind-the-scene work, and thanks to you viewers as well. I'm gonna start. This first song is titled "Let's Play." It's about my upbringing in a way. I didn't grow up with video games. I grew up with, picking things from the ground, picking scraps to make your own toys and do all that after your assignments from school. And, at the end of the evening, sit in front of the square in the compound. We used to have a quadrangle where I grew up, and you just sit there and wait for one older person or an adult to come and tell you stories and fables. So I developed this song as a result of that memory. It's called Let's Play. Woke up this morning feeling so nice. I wonder how, I wonder why too. Yeah. It's been a while I felt like this. My brother told me what we did last night. Da 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 da. I woke up this morning feeling so nice. I wonder how, I wonder why too. It's been a while I felt like this. My mother told me what we did last night. We were out in the cool, the coolest time of the night, playing hide and seek, singing midnight song. The moon is up above, it's staring at me tonight. Let's make a night to remember. Jẹ́ ká ṣeré alẹ́. The moon is up above in the sky. Jẹ́ ká ṣeré alẹ́. Jẹ́ ká ṣeré alẹ́. The moon is up above in the sky. Jẹ́ ká ṣeré alẹ́. Bàbá mi ò lè bẹ́, ìyá mi ò lè bẹ́, èmi nìkan ni mo lè bẹ́. Bàbá mi ò lè bẹ́, ìyá mi ò lè bẹ́, èmi nìkan ni mo lè bẹ́. Da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. And because we were so young, we can't really stay late till 10 or past 10. So while you're hearing those stories, you daydream or night dream or whatever it is and fall asleep. That's why I was saying my mama told me what we did last night because I didn't remember the rest of it. We fell asleep. Ibẹ̀ la gbé ń ṣeré wa, inú wa dùn, ara wa yá lábẹ́ igi òrombó. Inú wa dùn, ara wa yá lábẹ́ igi òrombó. Thank you. Here's another one. But before I do this song, I just want to give a bit of recognition to those who fought so hard for me and my current generation to still have what we have right now, even though it's not complete. Still grateful to understand that we had some people who stood up and fought against oppression, fought against mental slavery, fought against slavery on itself, and fought to develop our continent and bring it as close to limelight as it is right now. We can't forget our history. We can't forget the fact that we were born as kings and queens. But sometimes history has a way of being, told differently. And I'm using this particular song titled We Are Waiting to See as a reminder that the fight is not, should I say fight? Not really. The struggle still continues. We still have a long way to go. We are waiting to see. You've been busy playing the hero. You think you're so special to know right and wrong. While you've been busy telling me what to do, shit is getting real right under your eyes. Betel Romeo, he who has here let them hear. Saying my backyard is messy, forgetting the stench in your house. We are waiting to see. We We are waiting to see. What will you do now? We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. What will you do now? We are waiting to see. Commander-in-Chief of the state of hypocrites, when you go to rescue, hostages are the minds. Modern day Messiah, as in the days of old, Bible in one hand, rifle in the other one. Protect Batella on the ceremony. He who has your love and yeah. Saying my backyard is messy, forgetting the stench in your house. Leave us alone. Your presence is only for your gain. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. Protect Batella Romeo. He who has your left them here, saying my backyard is messy, forgetting this stench in your house. We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. What will you do now? We are waiting to see. If you're watching me, you can sing the line along. It's very simple. We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. Okay? What will you do now? We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. Again. We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. One more time. We are waiting to see. We are waiting to see. What will you do now? We are waiting to see.
Thank you very much, Kunle. Now, up next, we got a real treat for you guys. He's a really good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. He's here to make you laugh. I know him as Tobago Slim. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome comedian, Mr. Funny Man, Jean Paul.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here for the Durham Black History Month virtual show. I am the comedy component of tonight's festivities. My name is Jean Paul, and as you can see by the flag behind me, I am fully representing the beautiful Caribbean island of Jamaica, everybody. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I am originally from Trinidad and Tobago. But my accent doesn't let you guys know that because I grew up here. My parents moved here when I was very young, mostly because my parents were abusive because they decided, let's move from one of the hottest countries in the world to one of the coldest countries in the world, which I never understood till this day. But I grew up here. That's why I sound like this. I'm a Trini raised in captivity. That is what I am, ladies and gentlemen. But to balance things out, I've actually married a beautiful, beautiful Trini woman. She has the accent. If she were here beside me, she'd be like, oh my goodness, look at all those people out there in the virtual world celebrating Black History Month. This is so fantastic. I love it. So innovative, which is actually awesome for being married because no matter what she says to me when she's yelling, I just feel like I'm on vacation. the most relaxing arguments in the entire world. Makes being married very easy. And to add to that, this year I am about to celebrate 15 years of being married, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. I know it sounds insanely impressive, but hold your applause because she's my third wife. But when you add them all up together, it comes up to 15 years. That's what it does. I'm kidding. I've been married to the same Trini lady for the last 15 years, and it's been an awesome ride. I love being married to a Caribbean woman. I do. But I do have one little thing that I don't like. Here's the one thing I don't like about being married to Caribbean women. And Caribbean women, you guys are beautiful. You're smart. You're independent. You have such a great energy, but you guys have zero inner monologue. Zero. Whatever pops into your head slides right out of your mouth. And being a Trini fellow, you know, I knew I had to do this show. I like to think I have a sense of style. I like to think I have a sense of fashion. So I dress up for the show. So I had this, I put my outfit together, but the pants I had on were those jeans that everyone wears with the rips in them. That's what I had on before I was coming downstairs to do this and make this recording. But my wife caught me on the stairs and she's like, why are you wearing those pants? And I'm like, what are you talking about, babe? Why are you wearing those pants? And I'm like, because I have to do the Black History Month show for Durham, the virtual show. She's like, I understand all of that, but why are you wearing those pants? And I'm like, because this is fashion. This is what fashion looks like. Makes me feel good. And without skipping a beat, she's like, that's not fashion. That just looks like you don't know how to climb a stinking fence. That's what it looks like. So I was almost late for this because I had to go up and change into different pants because I didn't need to question my sense of agility while I was performing comedy for you guys. But here's what I also will say. Be safe, everybody. Respect each other. I know we are in a COVID. I know we are in a bit of a lockdown on some places. Some of us have to quarantine, but try to find the positive out of the negative. Try to find something that makes you happy. Practice happy. That's what I always say. And here's one of the things that I'm very happy about that I got to do within COVID is COVID beard. I got to grow a COVID beard. It looks nice, right? I know. And the reason I'm happy about that is because I'm usually clean shaven. Usually my face clean as a whistle. Not for any real reason, but I just enjoy hassle-free airline travel. You know what I mean? Being from Trini with all the different mixes of races and stuff like that, I'm racially ambiguous at best, you know? Because the vibe I give off with the beard, way different than without the beard. Without the beard, the vibe I give off completely, hey, brother, what's happening, brother? You good, brother? But the vibe with the beard is way different. It's more like a brother, you know, so it's horrible for airline travel, but it is awesome for catching taxis. So the universe kind of balances things out. You know what I mean? That's how it works, you know? So also with COVID, I want to say this, listen to our leaders. But here's the ironic part about that. I wish Obama was back. I completely wish Obama was still president of any country. If he wanted to run for prime minister in Canada, I would let him do that. I would still vote for Barack Obama because Trump, we all know, thank goodness he is gone finally. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Biden is president of the United States and we have Jamaican Kamala Harris, you know, and I also think that is a great thing because we all know for the inauguration dinner, there is going to be bami and oxtail and rice and peas on the menu, which I think is also fantastic. I don't think that gets enough credit why people aren't talking more about that menu. But Barack Obama was the leader. He had that voice. He gave you that confidence to get through this whole thing, you know, even the mask thing. He would make people wear masks, you know. Well, basically, what I want people to do is wear a mask. I'm not too sure why people won't wear a mask. Say that it takes away your rights. You should be worried less about your rights being taken away and more worried that your breath smells a little like your butt. You should be more worried about dental hygiene than your rights being taken away. Wear your masks, protect each other. We'll get through this. Barack Obama out. I'm coming to see you, Michelle. And that's why we need Barack Obama more in our entire lives, man. That's what I'm trying to tell you people. So when we all get out of this whole COVID thing after wearing our masks, and those of you who take the vaccine, you know, and we get to do things again, you know what I look forward to most of all? Getting outside and traveling, you know, and learning more. And that's what I loved about doing comedy. It allowed me to travel. And that's how I learned so much about so many different people. Like one of the first big things I learned when I started doing comedy is I got to go to Halifax, and the history of Halifax is a beautiful thing, you know. As an immigrant kid, I learned, you know, that the East Coast of Canada, very much like island people, they love, you know, very small town, like to talk to people, all that kind of stuff. And so when I went out there, I also learned that the Underground Railroad came up through Nova Scotia, and Black people settled just outside of Halifax in a little area called Africville. So I was excited because I'm like, hey, I'm going to see people that look just like me. But then when I got out there, I didn't see any Black people, but I didn't panic. It's not like I thought they were missing. You know, it's not like I thought I had to make a phone call. It was just the middle of winter, and you know how we do. You know, we'd rather be inside than outside. We're not very winter-centric people, right? But I walked into a bar in Halifax, and as I walked in and I did the scan, I realized, hey, I'm the only person of color in here. But that wasn't a big deal. It's Canada. It happens like that sometimes. But out of the corner of my eye, saw this drunk Newfie dude staring at me. And the one thing I really remember about taking my Canadian citizenship test was never lock eyes with a drunk Newfie. That's the one thing I remember, man. So this guy was staring at me. I just kept looking straight, you know. 5 minutes go by. He's still staring. I'm just looking straight, minding my business. 10 minutes go by, minding my business, looking straight. He's still staring. 15 minutes go by. He's still staring. Now I'm like curious. I got to see what this guy looks like. My plan is do this real quick, get a mental snapshot. So at least I know what he looks like, right? But the second I do this, we locked eyes. So he sees me, seeing him, seeing me. And without hesitation, he yells from across the room, "Hey, boy, where are you from there, boy?" Which is a weird question to ask somebody you've never met before, right? So I'd like just answer the question, keep things moving. So I go, "I'm from Toronto." And he goes, No, the color of your skin, where are you originally from there, boy? Which is a horrible follow-up question. But again, just answer the question, keep it moving, right? So I go, "I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago." And he goes, "Oh, Trinidad and Tobago, that's in the Caribbean there. It's close to Jamaica. You guys got the sand, the sun, the seas, and all that kind of good stuff there." Which really impressed me because I didn't expect him to know that much geographically about my region. But then he follows up and he gives me a history lesson, and he lets me know in the late 1700s, some volunteers from the Jamaican tribe called the Maroons helped build a piece of the Halifax Citadel, which is this historic building smack dab in the middle of the city. Now, as someone from the region and someone from the islands, I was proud. I had never heard that anywhere. I had never been taught that in school. I had never read that on Wikipedia. So I couldn't believe this. But he was drunk. So he didn't say the Maroons. What he actually said was the Macaroons. And that completely threw me off. And I remember leaning into him and going, "Do you mean the chocolate coconuts?" And clearly it threw him off because he leans in on me and goes, "You can't call them that there, boy. That's kind of racist." And he was right. So what I'm trying to say is never judge a book by its cover, people. Speaking of Black History Month, I want to say one of the coolest things I've ever been able to do was visit Africa. I got to visit Africa and I got to perform comedy in South Africa. I was there for a month, and here's what I'm going to tell you. Beautiful, beautiful country. It was absolutely fantastic. And here's what I love about the old country, as I like to refer to it. The old country is beautiful because it has those traditional things that we don't do over here in North America. I was there for a month. Every morning, I would eat breakfast in the restaurant that overlooked the city. You could see the sun rising. It was just beautiful, right? But we had the same waitress every morning. She was from the Zulu tribe. They were the tribe that speak with the clicks. And I fell in love with the way she spoke. And I'm not talking about the clicks and that's not what I fell in love with. What I fell in love with was when they speak English, they enunciate everything. So it sounds beautiful. So we're like, and we didn't want to call her hey every morning. So we're like, "What's your name?" And she's like, "My name is Nantokosa." We're like, "What's your name?" "Nantokosa," which was beautiful when she said it. And it got to the point where I loved hearing her speak so much that I would just ask her any type of question. And I know at one point she thought I was a little slow, because I remember standing like right behind the elevator. I'm like, Nanto, how do I get out of here? Do you know where the elevator is? And she's like, it's right behind you. And then as the doors close, I heard her actually say, I think that one is a little slow. So I don't know if she was talking about the elevator or she was talking about me. But so here's the thing. After a few weeks, we got more curious. We wanted to know about her. We never saw a ring on her hand. You know, she never mentioned whether she was married or whatever. So we said, Nanto, are you married? Beautiful girl like you. Are you married? What's the deal? And she's like, I am not married, but my fiance has not got the 5 cows he has promised to my father. And I was like, wow, how old school is that? Like, that's what I loved about being in Africa, all these traditions, you know, because that would never work in North America. That would never work in Canada. I couldn't walk into a bar and walk up to a girl and go, hey, baby, I got 5 cows at home. Say, you leaving with me? Most I might get is not phone number. I get a drink thrown in my face. Are you calling me a cow? Is that what you're trying to say? That's the kind of action you would get. But in Africa, that is a pickup line. You can walk up to any woman in Africa and go, hey, I have 5 cows at home that says you are living with me. And the most that might happen is she might hit you with a little indignance and she'd be like, stop. You had me at moo. Anyway, I've been John Paul. I want to wish everybody a pleasant Black History Month. Stay safe, respect each other. And on the other side of this whole COVID thing, we'll all get together and celebrate properly, man. Good night, good night, good night, good night.
Thank you once again, John Paul, aka JP, aka Tobago Slim. I miss you, bro. All right. I would like to welcome back Anthony Liu to introduce this year's Madiba Award recipient, Sandra Forsyth.
This year's Madiba Award honoree, Sandra Forsyth, is the chairperson and co-founder of the Durham Community Action Group. Sandra is also a member of the Durham Children's Aid Society Community Advisory Council, which she organized in 2015. She has been an advocate for students and their parents in the community for many years. Nearly a decade ago, Sandra was instrumental in requesting that the Durham District School Board collect data based on race and exceptionalities in relation to suspensions and expulsions. Now, the provincial government has mandated that all school boards collect race-based data. Sandra's philosophy is that the growth, development, socioeconomic integration, and involvement of our community must include our children and youth. She believes that our children and youth are our future leaders of tomorrow. Therefore, we must invest in every aspect of their lives. On behalf of the Durham Black History Month Committee, please join me in recognizing Sandra Forsyth.
Thank you. I accept this Madiba Award on behalf of every child and their Black families. It is my duty, our duty, to educate, empower, and advocate for every child and their family. Our children are our future. So therefore, we must invest in them. Stay focused, strong, and bless the Black family.
Congratulations, Sandra, once again, on your amazing award. Enjoy a medley of Caribbean folk songs by soprano vocalist Dawn Marie.
This long time, girl, me never see you. Come make me hold ya. This long time, girl, me never see you. Come make me hold ya. This long time, girl, me never see you. Come make me hold ya. This long time, girl, me never see you. Come make me hold ya. Strong than ever. singers declaring things on the mountainside. Catch up the fire, pass me the cookies, rub up the flowers here. Like flaming breeze. Evening time, when the summer now is evening time. When they walk the mountain, they walk the mountain, they walk the mountainside. So we just know that mountain done. Finger eating singers and clearing things on the mountainside. Evening time, evening time, evening time, evening time, evening time.
Thank you, Don Marie, for that amazing and powerful performance. Now, the U.S. might have Amanda Gorman, but we have many talented youth right here in the Durham region. Please welcome the Notre Dame Poetry Team.
Umoja is unity. We must begin with Mama, Mama Africa. Mama, you provide, you preserve, and you protect. Inzinga Aminatu Ya Asantawe, your daughters, formed of your beauty and your strength, reigned and stood as a reminder that the most underappreciated are the most impactful. And when foreign footprints made blisters on your fertile land, when your children's starved bodies were left for vultures, this was the first time you were ever disrespected. And as we made the journey from the shores of your womb to the shores of our oppressor, you still loved us. You knew we would return. Even as we were miles away, living, experiencing, remembering the trauma, the maafa. It is the spirit you instilled in us that allowed us to survive in an environment so hostile to its inhabitants. Mama, you hold us. You hold us all together. We are one. We are Africa. Umoja.
Kujichagulia is self-determination. Self-determined is what we are, to endure the pain and suffering dumped on us over the centuries and to still be standing. How many times have we been beaten down? The exploitation of our motherland, assassination of our leaders, experimentation on our children. And how many times have we rebuilt, revived, and replanted ourselves? We were forced into a land that its only purpose was to make sure that we never made equal status, to make sure we only amount to 3/5 of a human being. This system will never vouch for us, never lift us, and only make available as much as they can control, which is why we must take control of our businesses, of our schools, of our media, of our culture, of our lives. We are here and present to ensure that the determination of our ancestors does not die in vain, that their blood will not be bleached away by any supremacy. Our work is yet to be completed. Kujichagulia.
Ujima is a collective work and responsibility. We are all responsible to help each another, to uplift one another. We can only move as far as we push. We can only climb as far as we reach. Saying we will is not enough. Saying we need is an excuse. If something must be done, let us break the earth, plant the seed, and nourish our goals and dreams into prosperous realities. Who do we wait for when we form a united defense against colonizers? Desegregated our communities, dismantle oppressive monuments. Who do we wait for to recognize that our lives matter? No one. 3 black women said, we must shout, Black Lives Matter today, so our children can sing tomorrow. We have overcome. Ujima.
Ujamaa is cooperative economics. Kingdoms, yes, that is where we began. Reigning, growing, and expanding societies. In a land full of milk and honey, thriving on trade, on movement, and on connections. Then, as we moved here, we began again, and women took the lead. Madam C.J. Walker and Miss Viola Desmond making that green, successful in their methods and empowering in their speech, just as Sister Sojourner Truth did preach. But did you know money only circulates in our community for 6 hours at a time? That even with the little fruit that we do produce, it doesn't even stay on the vine? Let's take a page out of history, shall we? Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood. You see, here is where we need to be. Investing in one another, innovating as we do, maintaining our wealth so our people can too. Personal wealth has the potential to become community wealth if we can only see beyond the stability of the self. Ujamaa.
Nia is purpose. What is life without purpose? What is a people without purpose? Scattered, disrespected on the daily, broken. We end up looking for a purpose within other people instead of ourselves. Why? Because our story was written for us, edited to praise those who told us our melanin was cold, omitting our contributions that allowed them to live in the concrete jungle they've always dreamed of. Built on our backs, formed with our hands, yet no reward ever reaches our eyes. The narrative must change, and it must begin with our true purpose. On January 2021, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement was launched, a unified agreement that reverses the effects of the Berlin Conference. We're taking back our continent. Immerse yourself in the history that is ours, in the story that is ours, co-authored by no interpreter, because the sharpness of our tongues and the authenticity of our voices are the only ways to speak our truth and to live out our true purpose. United, we have Nia.
Kumba is creativity. We are the epicenter of every form of expression you call your own. We have been moving to the beat of our own drums before Billboard advertised a pop song. Our voices, as splendid of our ancestors' drum, the cries of our people, the whisper of our breath, coated in the royalty of the stories. What we have not blessed this economy with, I'll never know. The movement of our hips broke the chain that silenced our song. Never bow down to those who have copyright or birthright, or styles, effortless, or essence dripping, black excellence. You can experience a soul in every note, every peacoat. We move audiences, not keep them stand still. Every area we entered, we enrich. Because we are rich, it is time you notice it. Not just our contribution, but establishment of a color we have graced this world with. Kumba.
Imani is faith. Faith at its core is a belief in something that perhaps defies the laws of nature and human reasoning, but nevertheless works to maintain a sense of hope in a situation that seems to lack it. At its prime, faith has done the most work in keeping us united as a people. Now we must restore its invoice that encouraged fear, that tolerate discriminations and keep our greatness in the shadows. We have adopted much of what suppresses our power. We had a spirituality and a religion before they used theirs to colonize us, before this Western society brainwashed us into believing we are home. Home was. No, home is where our people are, where our people thrive, with our own food, clothing, our Papa Simon Kimbangu, surrounded by the presence of Mama Africa. Faithful we are, faithful we shall be, as our faith lies in our identity. Imani.
Thank you. Thank you to the Notre Dame Poetry team. Thank you so much for that. For this year's keynote, the Durham Black History Month Committee worked with Dr. Joseph Smith virtually to gather the experiences of a number of individuals on community representation and community service. Here's what they heard.
When and why did you decide to enter into public service?
You know what? I come from a background of folks doing public, but my parents were teachers, retired. My mom passed away about 4 years ago, and my dad is still active. And so teaching is a form of public service, and they were always, and as kids growing up, encouraging us to participate and get involved and help our community as best we can. Right. Mind you, I grew up in lily white communities because my parents started teaching out in Aurelia. Then they moved to Coburg. Then we moved to Bowmanville, Oshawa. So I have spent most of my life out in the rural community where there are very few, if any, Black folks. I spent 8 years in Toronto, went to college and university there. So I was there for 8 years. And after that, I moved back out to Durham. Right. I've been in Curtis for 20 odd years, and then I'm dating myself now. Then I moved to, I'm in Bowmanville. So while I was in college, university, I was always on school council in the Black segment of it, with the Black Student Alliance and Black student groups and advocating for Black students. So it started there. When I came back out here, well, as you know, I have been involved in party politics, because if you want to make changes, I believe you got to do that from within. Mm-hmm. So that's how I really became active. So when I got out here, raised 2 kids on my own, I found the time to run for a school board trustee. So I was a trustee here at the Peterborough, Victoria, Northumberland Catholic District School Board for 12 years. Served on the board. Became chair of the board, maybe the first Black chair anywhere around or ever. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to enter provincial politics, which I did in 2014. I won. This is a seat that has been conservative for 70 odd years, roughly.
Well, I was sort of in the public realm because I was a university teacher for 27 years. And, as a university level academic, you're in that public realm, so to speak. And I've done lots of research, but I've always maintained really strong ties to community. And still do, even as a senator. So in 2015, when Prime Minister Trudeau and the Liberal government came into power, the Prime Minister talked about changing the way that Senate appointments were made. And up to that point, in the history of Canada, Senate appointments were largely based on party affiliation. And of course, in Canada, for the most part, nationally, we've had 2 major parties flip-flopping in terms of who's in power. And so if you weren't
aligned and active in one of those parties, it was hard to be noticed. Prime Minister Trudeau said that was going to change. There would be an independent adjudicating board. There would be a 3-member national board, and then each province that had a vacancy would have 2 people. And at the time, I remember thinking, I don't believe this is going to work the way he says it's going to work. And so my application was to test. It was a test. I wanted to test to see if the system was going to work in the way that he was publicly stating that it would. And several people approached me and encouraged me to apply, including my spouse. He's retired. He's a CBC junkie. Every time he heard this news, I'd come home from work and he'd say, I really think he's talking about people like you. Okay. So I put in the application. There were 2 vacancies in Nova Scotia. 2,700 people applied for those 2 vacancies in Nova Scotia. So the fact that my application bubbled to the top, for each of those vacancies, the committee put forward 3 names, and then the Prime Minister selected one of those 3. And I was one of the people selected to come into public service. And when the Prime Minister called, one of the things he said, are you ready to serve the country? He said, I'm impressed with your body of work, with all that you've done. And most of my work has been done on issues of anti-Black racism, before we were calling it anti-Black racism. Yes. And looking at oppression and intersections of oppression. I was teaching in those areas. A lot of my research was in that area. And he basically said, this is a voice that we need and we want. Are you ready to serve? And I said, yes, I am.
Yeah, I felt like community life's always been calling me. It's one of those things that I've always heard, I've always known, I've always kind of danced with from back in high school. In high school, I was part of like the Black History community. I was part of like the student council. I was always wanted to see how we create a bigger, brighter world. I think one of the gifts that God's given me is that I'm filled with vision. And so you show me a desert, I'm gonna see a casino. I'm gonna see these things, and I'm like, I although I appreciate what we have today, I see that there's so much more ahead of us. So like community life to me is that path to expanding our horizons and making sure that everybody who's around us is able to live better, enjoy better, because otherwise you're always going to be wrestling with the confines and the current mindsets about today. And so I've always heard it, but I was never ready to really dive in. Over the last few years, I've been the chair of the Pickering Village BIA, and that's pretty much like an area where I've really worked with the community to try to expand their horizons and just enlarge in different things. Right now, at my current stage in life, I'm getting ready to jump in and throw my hat in to become an MP of Ajax. And it's a journey that I've wrestled with. It's a journey that I've gone through because public service, it requires a lot out of you. If you're looking at it from the side of what you're getting out of it, it can be deceiving because the compensation isn't the greatest. The price that you pay is so much better than the direct exchange. But I find that if we get into it and we do the work that's required, the reward is so great for not only for you directly, not just for your family directly, but the community that you share time and space with. And so that's what really draws me into it, the ability to go in and make a difference for the lives of those that are around us. And I feel like the visions that I see require me to respect it and engage it to do what can be done with a collective of people who believe the same thing as well.
So really, the life I had before getting into politics was working I actually owned a company that did healthcare-based research management. And I was working on a national epidemiology study on neurological conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsies, and across the age continuum, and really looking at the impact that those conditions had, not just on people living with the condition, but their families. And we were hearing these stories of families having to move from province to province because drugs weren't covered on their formulary. Couples that had to divorce to get the services that they need covered. And so that was sort of the initial sort of drive around, maybe I could use all of this research background that I have and implement that into actually informing policy that could help people. So that was one of the real tastes of how the research that I was doing as a career could influence another career in politics.
Well, I started in, I'll go with the trustee portion because I ran for election in 2014.
Right.
And why I ran was oftentimes why people get involved, right? Something happened to me. It was the stereotypical things, you know, brilliant young man, very engaged, and suddenly he was being labeled as aggressive and, you know, all those pieces that are typically come down with Black boys. And so I was looking for somebody to advocate for me, and there wasn't anybody. And so I said, well, if nobody will do it, then I will run, right? So that's why I ran, to make a change and to really advocate, to give Black parents a voice where there wasn't one, an active one, right? So that was the reason.
What challenges did you encounter or still encounter on your path to becoming an elected official?
So the campaigning process is, I would say, the hardest part of the whole journey. And that is because you need to get your name, first of all, on the ballot. So getting yourself through the nomination process is hard. You know, you're competing with other people who are also running for whatever party that you're running for. And that could be challenging because there's some favorites and there's some not so favorites. There's some people who have been there for a long time and people like me who just show up one day and decide that they're going to run. So it's about getting that community support and going door to door and really selling yourself. So you are the product during the nomination process. When you're on the ballot, the whole platform is then the product, and you are out there as a salesperson, so to speak, selling that product. And oftentimes people just don't like the product. It has nothing to do with you. So if you're very sensitive about people, you know, being upset, I've never had a door slammed or anything like that, but just being upset at the general platform and the divisiveness of politics, if you're faint of heart, it's not a place for you to be, because people tend to get a little nasty on the door. In terms of being a Black woman who has campaigned a couple of elections in Whitby, which is 70% white, I've never experienced any kind of racism or sexism at the door. It was quite surprising, actually, to go through an entire campaign where I'd knock on the door and start to talk to individuals about the platform, and they were totally cool with it. And in fact, when they would say something like, you know, I would never support liberals because of X, Y, or Z policy, oftentimes I'd find myself saying, yeah, that policy was flawed and this was why. And so I wouldn't fight them at the door. Sometimes I'd agree with them. I wasn't going to convince them at the door, but we'd have a great discussion. And I think that's what people respected, that we weren't going to further be divisive at the door.
Well, I didn't even know really about politics and having to the pieces involved with it. So fundraising was out of my husband's pocket. Like I wasn't able to really raise funds to run. And a lot of people don't really see trustee position as an important position or even know most times what trustees do. And I think it's interesting because the impact for children are so huge. Trustee positions are, I wish people would pay more attention to it, because when you're thinking about the impact around education, that's your trustee. When you're thinking about advocating for your child, that's trustee. When you're thinking about making change in education, that's trustee. And when you're thinking about trustees, they're nonpartisan. So it doesn't matter what political party you are with. As a trustee, you are supposed to advocate for whoever comes through your door. So it's a very important piece. but a lot of people campaigned and nobody really knew what trustees did. So you couldn't really fundraise. And knocking at door, people would ask you, hey, so what does it do? So that was a whole part around even educating people in the community, not just the Black community, outside of the Black community as well, what a trustee did.
So I've not been in full-time public life in that regard, but going through the 11 years of small business as an adult, married man, father, you start realizing that you're trading your time and your energy and your awareness and attention span for these things. And those are the hard conversations that, you're trying to, I feel like a husband, you're always trying to negotiate something. And because you're trying to take energy from here and attention from here for a hope. And I'm fortunate that my family supports me, and it's a complex thing because my young daughter right now, she's 10. And so there's a lot of turning points that she's going through. There's a lot of intrigue, and she's a big personality. And so like you look at like, well, what are we doing with our time? Is that going to be involved? So I think like one of the huge challenges is this being able to manage your time well so that you can still have the adequate imprint on your family. And we know that even when we're there, it's still hard to have that full imprint, to always know where they're at. So that's a juggle right there. A perceived challenge I see ahead is being able to know that my perspective my perspective on what the solution is going to be is not enough to solve the problem. The work to being able to engage everybody's perspective on what the solution could possibly be is really going to be the work of getting involved and getting engaged with everybody that way. Um, those are some things that I see from the surface from where I'm at right now. But it's like you start losing those things for the event of being able to allow people to see you, know you, understand you, so that they can build a measure or degree of trust in you. Our family conversations around that is really like, what do we believe that we're? So as a man of faith, a man who believes in God, we believe that the question always comes back to what do we believe that we're supposed to be doing in a context of purpose? And so we recognize that I've been going through that wrestle for years now about where do I go and how do we give more of what I've learned, I've benefited, I've gained. So I've pretty much grew up in Ajax. Our family moved out here when I was in grade 8. And so I've been out here for about 30 years on and off. And Ajax has been depositing so much into my life. And it's raised me. It's raised me. And I feel like there's a responsibility for me to give back some of that wealth and some of that treasure to Ajax by the sense of helping to be a part of a team moving it forward into this next iteration. So the conversations have been looking at what does that look like? Time. A big conversation really is about time and energy around our house, time, energy, and fulfillment of purpose. And those are some of the big pieces that we've had to wrestle around.
So there is a few folks here that have Confederate flags. That's an issue we're dealing with. It's hard to legislate when you have Charter of Rights issue when it's in people's backyard. So we are still grappling, trying to figure out how to get rid of that. But then I guess it would have to lobby the federal government to declare it a hate symbol. So we can't really tell somebody they can't, then they would go on Charter of Rights issue and etc. Right. But we're trying to get rid of any signs of hatred, and we have no need or any use for intolerance. I think we should move beyond that.
Which, if any of these challenges have evolved over time? Have you seen any difference in the last 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, or 1 year?
What's different is that the rest of the world is paying attention. What's different is as the rest of the world has suddenly realized, oh my goodness, Black lives matter, Indigenous lives matter. Oppression is real. People don't bring this harm to themselves. The murder of George Floyd was in the middle of the day by police, filmed by a young African American woman who was brave enough to take out her phone, turn on her camera. She knew. And so, for as much as we're very mindful of the harm, the pain, the violence that George Floyd's family, his daughter, the rest of his family, what they feel, but also for everyone who witnessed that. Every person of African descent around the world felt that pain to some degree. What I see as different is that other people around the world suddenly became more aware and made a commitment to action. So I want to hold people to that commitment to action. And I think in every speech I gave in the latter part of 2020 and every one that I will give going forward, I will push for the action and really pushing for actions from everybody. Because it's very easy for people to say, oh, well, our leaders aren't doing what they should do. There's enough work to go around. There's enough for all of us to be doing. All of us have a role to play. We all have a role to play in keeping racism and oppression intact. So therefore, we all have a role to play in addressing it. And I think that's what this moment in time, I call it the collision of the two pandemics. The pandemic of COVID has collided with the pandemic of racism. We've been living with the pandemic of racism for generations, but it's collided, it's that collision point. That's what we're working with. And we need to make it the Black Lives Matter moment, the Black Lives Matter movement, and taking it bigger and further than I'm sure the original intent ever was.
Well, I think if I could keep it in a Canadian context, of course, I mean, there's always incremental change, right? So we see now that there's a Black woman who's the head of a federal party, recognized party, the Green Party in Canada, which is Anna May Paul. But we still only have one Black female elected representative in Marcy Ian, right, at the federal level. So is there change? Yes. Is it sweeping and broad? No. Do we still have a situation where there isn't enough Black individuals who are, in key positions, even within our federally regulated system? Yes. In fact, there's a class action lawsuit happening against the government from Black employees, former Black employees, some who've worked with the government for 30 years, never received a promotion. So when we think about the changes that are happening and the heightened awareness about anti-Blackness as a result of 2020, I don't think that it has been that heightened sort of activity that is required to change the system currently. It's still incremental, it's still small, it's still sometimes even negligible, but what we're seeing on the other side of that is that people's reactions. So this class action lawsuit, for example, is a great reaction of no, as a community, we are not going to stand for this anymore. And we are not just going to ask for, changes to be made. We're going to demand them through legal action. And I think that's a powerful testament to our power as a community.
I think there's both. There's a systemic piece because we do work in a unionized environment. So, you always have to think about those pieces. There's also we're governed by the Ministry of Education. So there's the Education Act and those pieces. And then you have the piece where people are just used to not doing it, right? And it's not, when you don't have a diverse group of people there, the change is slower because now you gotta get consensus and you gotta change people's minds and you gotta get people to recognize the impact of the impact on our students and our families. And so there's those pieces about getting people out of the way so that there's that piece, but there's the systemic pieces as well. Like if we look at Regulation 274, which is a regulation that hires by seniority, and there's a differentiation of conversation in that, it is fair. And it might be fair because you're hiring by seniority, but oftentimes the diverse teachers are all the way at the bottom of the list. So the chances of them getting hired to change with our demographic and reflect our students in school will take 5-10 years. So how are we purposeful in doing that, right? And then you have the conversation. Well, it's not fair because it's seniority, and it's not fair because they're new to education. So there's all those pieces that we talk about. So you'll have people that support the getting rid of Education 274, like the government's doing now, and you'll have people that are against it because they think it's not fair. But oftentimes when you're trying to do equity, fairness doesn't work out for the minority, right? So oftentimes the terms that are fair serves the majority and not really the minority. So so when you're talking about systemic pieces, that's it. The de-streaming piece, the government's also challenging that as well in regards to not have it for de-streaming in grade 9. You wonder, okay, when you're coming out of grade 8, you're neither applied or academic. So why do you really need to be applied or academic in grade 9? And how a lot of our students, especially Black students, end up in the applied, which, totally sets them back for their future choices. So, and then somebody would say, well, you need to have an applied stream to support kids that are not doing well, but why? So, there's those pieces that we need to have those conversations about, right?
And you know what? I am out here and systemic racism, it exists, but you got to rise above it. And as I use that Nelson Mandela quote, you try to ignore, you might try to ignore it, but it's there. Right. But I never let it use it as a crutch, and I never let it, and I tell kids that, I tell Black kids that you have to be cognizant of it, but don't let it define you or let it defeat you. You got to show people you're better than that. And I tell kids when I talk to them, I say the best way to do that, education is the most powerful weapon which they can use to change the world. So get your education and reach us. What people, they'll put their biases aside. If you're going to be able to contribute to their businesses, most business, that's what they're going to look for. They might have their prejudice, but the bottom line is, if you're able to benefit their company or their organizations, most, not all of them, but most of them will look beyond that and you provide you with the opportunity. And then that's when you can prove yourself. That's when you can, branch out and help others and bring others up to rise up with you. So I always do that, and that's my mantra.
Despite these challenges, share with us some of the good. When have you seen democracy in action? When have you seen policies move us forward? When have you seen initiatives really benefit the Black community?
So here I am in Bowmanville. Now we have, there's a diversity. I guess one of the proud things here, we have of all of the municipalities, maybe except for Brock and Scugog, Clarendon might have the least amount of minorities. But we have a vibrant diversity committee and council and a subcommittee that other municipalities are modeling after. So that's an accomplishment for an area that has, because when I ran here in 2014, the entire population of minorities, which is Black, Chinese, minorities in general, was about 1%. So that has changed in a few years. Everybody's moving here now. So there are quite a number of Black folks around, that people that look like me, which is good to see.
So as a community, we need to really pay attention to what the word democracy means and what it means to the Greek word democracy comes from demos and kratos, and it means power of the people. And as people, we have power. As Canadians at large, we have power, but especially as 1.2 million individuals of African descent who are part of this economy, part of the social fabric of Canada, we have a lot of power. And again, we've seen it through that legal action, through the Black class action lawsuit against the Federal Public Service. But we also see it with, parents who have actively advocated for their children. And now we're seeing in 2021, for the first time ever, the streaming of grade 9 students, especially Black students, into courses that won't offer them the options for university has ended. We're seeing advocacy groups really demand change in the education in education, and we're seeing that Toronto District School Board has removed police officers from schools. So, and we're also seeing, like with COVID, especially in Toronto, where we were going to collect race-based data related to COVID, advocacy groups, Kwame Mackenzie, the Wesley Institute advocated for that, and we ended up having race-based data related to COVID. So there's a number of different ways in which we could exercise our democratic rights in between the times when we exercise our right to vote, which is a very small use of our democracy. But we're seeing so often that our community is being able to activate change, transformative change, not just in Canada, but on a global level as well.
Exactly. And every role is important. Every voice is important. And so how do we bring those voices forward? How do we elevate those voices? And that's a message I often give to young people. One of the best parts of my job is having the opportunity to talk with young people, having the opportunity to go into schools and to meet with young people, to engage and inspire them, to encourage them. And if we can encourage them in that service, no matter what it is, as you said, we all have different talents. My 9-year-old grandson said to me the other day, he said, "Nanny, I don't think you have any talents." I said, "Oh, really?" "What is a talent?" He said, "Something you're really, really good at." And I said, "Yes, that's right. So are you sure you don't think I have any talents?" Well, he said, "Nanny, you work hard." So that's my talent.
What message do you have for the next generation on public service? Think of what you'd like to say to that Black student sitting in a career studies class right now.
I think this generation is very involved. I think this generation is very aware of what's going on around them. And I find young people now are ready to take that step, and with the right guidance will step out where we weren't stepping out before. Like, I've seen the difference even in the last 2 years in regards to the amount of racialized candidates that are coming forward, people that are paying attention to what's going on so that they have a voice. And I think starting out even with starting out in elementary school, getting involved in your student council, volunteering. I find that as our community with our younger students, they tend not to volunteer as much, but it opens so many doors. Getting out and volunteering, because you get exposed to networking, you get exposed to people that you normally probably wouldn't meet in your regular circle. So that's an important piece, is stepping out of your norm, probably going somewhere where you normally wouldn't go. And sometimes it's hard as well, because, are those spaces safe? Do you feel okay being there? Are you opening yourself to trauma just being in certain places? But it is an important piece to look at where you are and where you think you might want to go. And even if you don't even know yet, to do something that's different, because I think that opens the eyes so much, and encouraging our students to really pay attention to politics, because we tend to sort of vote traditionally, but we need to look at the pieces and how it affects you, and are those things line up with your beliefs and all that stuff. So I think having those conversations, starting from even 7 and 8 and going into high school, are important pieces.
I would say honor their destiny by doing the work to raise the roof on what today's possibilities are. I found for myself that that is what draws me in. Is that when I look at what the current limitations are as a father, looking at down the road for generations to come, if we don't do the work today, we're always going to be looking at these the same limitations, these same challenges, the same reasons why most of us don't typically run towards it is actually the reasons why we should run towards it. So for all those things to become better, we have to go and apply better. We have to go and give the work, give the ideas, give the energy to making those things true. It doesn't come, once again, I'm a man of faith. It doesn't just simply come by praying. It comes by the work that comes behind it. It comes by us working collaboratively and in a positive attitude to embracing the challenges and the successes. I think they're both only lessons. A lot of times we just go where successes can possibly be, but embracing the challenges that come because they're going to prepare us to become better as well. They're testing things that shape us to become better. So I would encourage them just to really honor their destiny by doing the work that's required to raise the roof of their possibilities. And next level is that if this stage of their life or the next few years are not their time to get into public service, vote for the right people in public service. Just step out there and do the homework, find out who it is. Like, so although I'm going into it, I encourage every single person, do the homework on the candidate that's gonna run in that area. Make sure that you're investing in a good candidate. A lot of times we're misinformed. We just choose a party. The party is only as powerful as the candidate in that party. So you can have the right party with the wrong person who doesn't do anything. And so you want to make sure that, at this time, you're using your power at the greatest capacity you have. Every time we vote, we tell people what we want or we don't want, what we support and what we don't. So I always say use our power to show what we accept and what we reject. And so I wouldn't say, hey, just go out there and vote me as much as I want you to. I want you to know why to vote for me and why to vote for somebody else. But inform yourself with information and then take action.
So I'll add to their agency, their authenticity. We cannot expect that these spaces will change. They'll be more inclusive, more equitable. If every time we enter into those spaces, we try to fit in somehow by losing part of ourselves. It just intuitively doesn't make sense. So when we enter into these spaces, that we have to bring our authentic self. We have to understand the power of who we are, the power of our voices. And I say that with a little bit of an asterisk beside it, because I know that sometimes it's not safe to do so. So when I say be authentic, it is about being authentic and making sure that you preserve your health, your finances, your whatever it is to be safe, but bring as much of your authenticity to the situation as possible, because every experience that you've had, everything that you've done in school, every experience you had in work or volunteering or even in your home life adds value to our communities, our institutions, and know that value that you're adding is really important. So bring your authentic self there and learn as much as you can, not only from books, but from living and from yourself as well.
Get your education, do a lot of reading, do a lot of community activities, get involved politically and get involved in the charitable organizations. Look what political party best suits your needs. Look what political party was more tolerant and more accommodating. Join a writing association. If you want to be get into partisan politics, then you join a writing association, you get involved in the party. And believe it or not, with the changes, as I said, it's an opportunity that as a young person, the opportunity is there right now because they want to reflect more Blacks, more minorities in government. They want to do that because of incidents that happen south of the border, but make use of that opportunity.
I would encourage youth to engage in their communities in some way, no matter where they are. So giving back to our communities is something really vital and it's the legacy of our ancestors. Our ancestors didn't have um, generational wealth to give us in terms of finances, but they have generational wealth in terms of public service. They have generational wealth that they've given us in terms of the commitment to community, the commitment to racial uplift. We, until all of us are free, none of us are really free. And so, what's our responsibility to ensure that we're uplifting all of us? And to young people, one of the most important things that you can give to yourselves is your education. And I think education has to have two tracks. So there needs to be the formal academic education and doing some sort of post-secondary education. I don't care if it's in the trades or in universities. Both are important, and both will lead to a good future. So the academic education, but also the social justice, civil rights education needs to happen as well. So that two-track educational journey is what our young people need to be on. And if you're on a journey where you're learning about social justice, where you're learning about human rights, where you're learning about inequity, then the next step is, so where's my place in helping to deal with that?
Wow, thank you. That was really inspiring. Thank you for that. Question: are you a grade 12 student in the Durham region? If so, this next one is for you.
We're looking for our community's best to apply for the first ever post-secondary art scholarship presented by the Durham Black History Month celebration. The scholarship is open to grade 12 students in Durham region. The application form with all the eligibility criteria is now available on our website, www.durhamblackhistorymonth.com. 2 scholarships valued at $1,000 each will be awarded, and the deadline to apply is March 26th. The Durham Black History Month Celebrations Post-Secondary Art Scholarship. Apply now on durhamblackhistorymonth.com.
An event like tonight is made possible only by the generous support and funding of our partners and sponsors. We'd like to take a moment to recognize those organizations that made it possible.
The Durham Children's Aid Foundation is very excited to be partnering to support and present the Feast of Black Excellence. Thanks very much for your work in ensuring that no child shall be left behind. We hope you enjoy the event and look forward to seeing you again on February 27th.
This profile is about Corey Joseph, and the research and script were completed by Ashvan and Karishvan Raghunathan. Corey Joseph is a Canadian basketball player who was born in Toronto and grew up in Pickering. He attended Pickering High School, where he played for the Trojans, and then he went on to the University of Texas to pursue his dreams of becoming a professional basketball player. He is currently in his 10th NBA season and is playing for the Sacramento Kings. He has accomplished a lot in his basketball career so far. Some of Joseph's career highlights include 2009 FIBA Under-19 World Champion, 2011 Big 12 All-Rookie Team, 2011 NBA First-Round Pick, 2014 NBA Championship winner, and 2017 career high of 33 points. Every NBA player's dream is to play for their hometown, and Corey Joseph was able to do that. Joseph said, when signing the contract to be part of the Toronto Raptors, "There is no place like home. It is literally a dream come true. As a young kid, I imagined this moment playing for not only an NBA team, but for the Toronto Raptors." After his 2 years in Toronto, he said, "I had a great time during my 2 years. When I was a kid, I dreamed of playing for my hometown. I got to do it. I was happy about it. And in those 2 years, we made franchise history in the playoffs, wins in the season, and I was a part of that. So I'm thankful for that." Ajax Public Library gives thanks to the following for their support of this Black History Month project. For more Black History Month content, visit our website at ajaxlibrary.ca/blackhistorymonth. This profile is about Tanya Lee Williams, and the research and script were completed by Thuva Ranjanathan. Tanya Williams was born on July 12, 1958 in London, England. Throughout her early years of childhood, she and her family emigrated several times, but they eventually settled in Oshawa, Canada in 1969. Having always had a passion for the arts, Tanya's enthusiasm and talent allowed her the chance to meet the casting director, Karen Hazard, and book TV commercials during high school. After high school, Tanya auditioned successfully for the drama program at Ryerson University. After graduating from Ryerson, Tanya hosted the children's program Polka Dot Door in 1980. After numerous other acting roles in shows and movies, Tanya decided to move to Los Angeles in 1988, where she eventually landed her most well-known role as Olivia Barber on The Young and the Restless. Today, Tanya is a renowned award-winning actress, producer, advocate, president of the company Wilbo Entertainment, and the founder and executive director for the Real World Film Festival. She was named Miss Junior Personality and Miss Black Ontario from different beauty pageants. She was nominated for several awards, including the Daytime Emmy Award Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, the NAACP Awards, Image Awards, Positive Impact Award, Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Award, and the Red Ribbon of Hope Award. Tanya is a righteous and giving individual. She has been involved in various initiatives for social justice and human rights. An example of this would be her peace mission in Rwanda for World Vision. She is someone who promotes racial diversity, as can be seen with her expressed desire to normalize all ethnicities working together in film. She expresses her passion for uplifting diversity through her Real World Film Festival, and she continues to win numerous awards for her works in advocacy for artists of color in Canada's entertainment industry. She believes in using her role as an actress to educate and make social change. Tanya is an embodiment of excellence, as she not only uses her platform and influence to promote and advocate for diversity in the Canadian entertainment industry, but she also actively makes an effort to make that a reality through her festival. She battled many silent battles as a black actress in the 1990s, and overcame all of the racism and discrimination she faced to establish herself as an accomplished female actor. She did not have an easy childhood, and she most definitely did not have an easy adulthood. For the majority of her time in the entertainment industry, or for at least the start, she was often the sole black actor and had to endure prejudice, both through verbal and nonverbal cues, against her skin tone. There was a lack of makeup artists and hairstylists who knew how to take care of her cosmetic needs on set due to her race, and she even got hate mail for being allowed to be telecasted. Despite this, she still went on to be nominated for the Emmys, and then continued to build herself up to the state she is now, a multi-talented woman of color who is an actor, producer, director, and so much more. Ajax Public Library gives thanks to the following for their support of this Black History Month project. For more Black History Month content, visit our website at ajaxlibrary.ca/blackhistorymonth.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Off the Clock. I'm your host, Josiah St. John, and we're here with one of the greatest athletes to come out of the Durham region, Nichelle Prince. Nichelle went to Ohio State. She was on the women's national team when she was only 17 years old, and she also scored 3 goals in 2018 for the qualifying for the World Cup. Hey, how you doing, Nichelle?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. This is actually a treat for me. A couple of questions I want to ask you. My first one I ask you is, what was it like growing up in the Durham region?
Yeah, I loved growing up in Durham region. Obviously, when you haven't been anywhere else. Like you just know your environment. But looking back at it, I think it was a great place to grow up because it was so diverse. Everyone was accepted, and I feel like after leaving that, I realized how important that was and how like blessed I was to grow up in an environment like that. So I think, yeah, growing up in Durham region, I think there was so much opportunity for me as a young athlete and a young Black girl to kind of explore whatever and get to do it around a lot of people who look like me and who didn't look like me. So I think that was, it was great growing up in Durham.
Great. I know that you come in a long pipeline of women from the Durham region, especially Pickering High School, that have gone and played soccer at the Division I level. Is there anybody when you were younger that you look up to, that you want to emulate, who pushed you?
Yeah, there was a lot of people. I mean, like you said, Pickering High had so many amazing athletes. Like it was like an honor to go there because like there was athletes in every like different sport that were just at the highest level. I mean, Zakia was one of them I played with growing up, who I used to love playing with her because we just always connected on the field. There was Christine Exeter, who was involved with the national team, Catherine Lawrence. My sister was one of the top players as well. And then there was players and there's athletes in other sports like as well. There was Braxton, Papadopoulos, who was a really great wrestler. There was just a ton of athletes, and I was just like, it was just a really great time to be around such like motivated people. But yeah, I think those were some people who were before me who grew up in the Durham region that were like really top of their sport. And I just wanted to be on that level as well.
Hey, I know you're really well traveled. You've played all around the world. I have a question. Have you faced any discrimination or maybe racism in your sport?
Honestly, the first and only time that I had was in college, actually. And we played at the school that was a predominantly white school. And I obviously on the field, things get heated, people say things. And I was called the N-word by this girl. And it was like so shocking for me because I was a freshman. It was my first year in college, my first time being away from home like that. And yeah, it was shocking because I had never experienced anything like that growing up. But I think it's funny because when you're a kid, you don't really see all that stuff that's going on. And talking to my parents after, they tell us about things that happened when we were kids or how things were unfair for us. But it's like, I think as a child, you don't really understand that. I think especially as a child growing up in Durham region, especially in Ajax, where it's so diverse, there's so many people around, like different people around you that don't look like you. As a kid, you don't notice little things that may happen. And so I think growing up, my parents would tell me like things that maybe were unfair or just the fact that as a Black girl in soccer, you're probably one of 2 or 3 on your team. And that's been like that since I was a little girl to now. I mean, not a lot of Black girls play. And so there's just little things and little comments and things that are just a little different and unfair. And I think one thing, especially this past year, that we've talked about a lot is just how Black girls are perceived in sport, especially in soccer. And I think a lot of the time we're thought to be like the athletes, the fast ones, and I think I think that it's important to change the narrative around that because there's a lot of Black girls who are actually just very smart, very technical, very tactical minded. And it's not just about being a great athlete and fast and can jump high and can sprint. Like it's also about how we see the game. And I think it's important that we start changing that narrative around Black players in sports, that we're not just athletes, we actually understand the game as well. And so that's something that I kind of want to like change and kind of just shed light on, that Black girls should be seen as more than just athletes. And I think we are great athletes, but we're more than that. So yeah, I think that's something that as a young girl, I was always told, you're really fast, just go run, just kick the ball in front of you and run. But I was also really technical. And so can I be looked at as that as well? And I understood the game, and can we shine light on that as well and make other girls know that that's an important aspect of the game. They should also work on that.
Yeah. Great interview. Thank you so much, Nichelle, again. We know your season's starting soon. You're in Houston. You're away from the Durham region, but we want to say we're going to be watching, supporting you, and congrats on all your success, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right, no problem.
Up next, from Toronto, we have the smooth sounds of Pan Fantasy. Enjoy. All right, all right. What an amazing event so far. We're in the virtual realm, but we're having a good time, keeping the energy up. It has absolutely been amazing. But right now, I'd like to welcome back the committee co-chairs Esther Ford and Dane Lawrence to close out this fantastic evening.
Thank you for being a part of our 14th annual celebration. Without you, we would not be able to do this. Every year, you, our supporters, help to make this event the largest Black History Month celebration in Durham region.
Thank you to our host, Sean Morissette, to our performers, Rena Faith, Kunle, Jean-Paul, the Black Star Poetry Team, Dawn Marie, Lee Callender, and Pan Fantasy Steel Band. To our community leaders, Dr. Joseph Smith, Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard, Selena Caesar Chavan, Regional Councilor Granville Anderson, Patrice Barnes, and Brenton Allen. Congratulations to our Mediba Award recipient, Sandra Forsyth. And special thanks to Rohan McLeish and the crew at Centennial College for making this virtual gathering possible.
Thanks to our partners, the Durham Children's Aid Foundation, the City of Pickering, the Town of Ajax, and the Congress of Black Women.
And we are so grateful for our sponsors, the Durham Region Police Services Board, Durham Catholic District School Board, Rotary Club of Pickering, Rotary Club of Ajax, Lexicon Energy, and the Ajax Library.
Our volunteers committee rose to new heights to transform this event to a digital platform. Their efforts were tireless, and we congratulate them on your behalf.
We look forward to seeing you, hopefully in person, for our milestone 15th anniversary celebration in 2022.
And again, thank you all. Good night and God bless.
It's been a great evening, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us here today. Walk in peace. Be kind to each other. Much love. Performing for us today all the way from the Bahamas, please welcome accomplished pianist Lee Callender.